There will be days when your mind feels like a battlefield. Days when you wake up and nothing feels right. Not your thoughts, not your purpose, not even your own reflection in the mirror. You scroll through the noise, you chase distractions, you try to fill the emptiness with movement, but deep down you still feel lost. And in that silence between heartbeats, you begin to wonder, when did I lose myself? When did my dreams become so distant, my focus so fragile? You see, the truth is not that you're weak. It's not that you've failed. It's that your mind, the greatest instrument you'll ever own, has been left untrained, unguarded, and undirected. And anything untrained eventually turns on its master. Most people don't realize this. Your mind doesn't obey you by default. It obeys your fears. It obeys your habits. It obeys whatever you fed it most consistently. If you've spent years feeding it distraction, it will crave chaos. If you've spent years feeding it doubt, it will resist belief. But discipline, real discipline, is how you reclaim your throne. It begins in the smallest moments. When you choose silence over scrolling, when you breathe instead of reacting, when you refuse to let your thoughts bully you into surrender, because the mind is like fire. It will burn anything you feed it. Feed it excuses, and it will consume your courage. Feed it vision, and it will light up your destiny. When you feel lost, remember this. Being lost is not the same as being broken. Being lost means you are moving, you're just not yet aligned. Every storm that disorients you is also clearing the path you were meant to see. So pause. Don't panic. Don't rush to fix your life in a single day. You don't fix the ocean by calming the waves. You calm yourself, and the waves begin to obey. Your chaos is not your enemy. It is your teacher. It is showing you where your mind has been allowed to wander unchecked, where you've given power to doubt, to fear, to noise. And now the lesson is simple but profound. You must learn to discipline your mind, or it will discipline you. Discipline doesn't mean force. It means focus. It means standing in the middle of the storm and saying, I choose where my attention goes. It means refusing to be a victim of your own thinking. So the next time you feel lost, don't look for a new map. Build a new compass. That compass is your mind, trained to stay steady no matter the weather. Because once your mind learns to stand still, the world around you begins to move with purpose again. Discipline, the word itself can sound cold, rigid, even harsh, because for most people, discipline was never taught as love. It was taught as punishment, as rules, as restriction, as something that steals freedom. But the truth is the opposite. Discipline is freedom. When your mind is disciplined, you are no longer a prisoner of impulse. You are no longer tossed around by every emotion, every thought, every passing storm. You become the master of your own inner kingdom. Think of discipline not as a cage, but as the banks of a river. Without the banks, water spills everywhere. It floods, it destroys, it loses direction. But with the right boundaries, that same water becomes power. It moves mountains, lights cities, creates life. That is what mental discipline does for you. It channels your chaos into creation. It turns wandering thoughts into focused energy. It transforms confusion into clarity. Every great mind in history, every builder, every creator, every visionary, shared one secret. They trained their minds to obey vision, not emotion. They didn't wait to feel ready. They decided to show up. Discipline begins where motivation ends. Motivation is easy, it's exciting, loud, full of fire, but it fades. Discipline, though, discipline is quiet. It shows up when no one claps. It keeps working when the applause is stopped. You don't build a powerful mind by chasing inspiration. You build it by mastering repetition, by showing up for your thoughts every single day, because your mind will not respect you until you prove that you are in charge. Every time you hit snooze, every time you say tomorrow, every time you let distraction win, you teach your mind that it, not you, commands your life. But every time you say no to what weakens you and yes to what strengthens you, you earn back your authority. Discipline is not about controlling everything. It's about controlling the right things. You cannot control the weather, the economy, or the people around you, but you can control what you think, what you focus on, and how you respond. And when you control that, you control everything that truly matters. There's a story that says a monk once told his student, "Before you can master your destiny, you must master your mind." The student asked, "Oh, how do I master my mind?" The monk replied, "By keeping it where your feet are, here, now." That is discipline, not running from the present moment, but standing fully inside it, not drowning in yesterday's regret or tomorrow's worry, but commanding your thoughts to be here, to do the work, to breathe. When life feels out of control, discipline becomes your anchor. It's not glamorous. It doesn't promise quick wins or instant comfort, but it gives you something deeper, stability. The disciplined mind does not chase results. It builds foundations. It knows that every calm breath, every moment of focus, every decision to persist is a brick in the cathedral of a meaningful life. So when people ask, "How do I find myself again?" the answer is simple. Stop searching for yourself. Start building yourself, thought by thought, choice by choice. That's what discipline does. Because one day, when your heart feels steady and your mind is clear, you will look back and realize you were never truly lost. You were simply being taught how to lead yourself home. Now let's understand what happens when you leave your mind untrained, when you let fear take the throne instead of discipline. Most people live their entire lives believing their thoughts are the truth, but they are not. Thoughts are echoes, the reflections of everything you fed your mind, repeated back to you in 1,000 voices. And here lies the tragedy. No one ever taught us how to think. We were taught what to think, what to believe, what to memorize, what to fear, but not how to control the stream that never stops flowing inside our heads. An untrained mind is like a city without walls. Every fear, every doubt, every distraction walks right in, sets up camp, and begins to rule your life. That's why you feel exhausted, not from what's happening outside you, but from the war that never ends inside you. Your mind is fighting ghosts of the past, imaginary futures, and stories that were never true to begin with. You think you're tired of life, but you're really tired of your thoughts. Listen carefully. Your mind is not your enemy, but it will become one if you never teach it who's in command. The untrained mind is impulsive. It reacts, not responds. It believes everything it feels. It chases comfort and avoids growth. It's like a wild horse, beautiful, powerful, but dangerous if left untamed. If you don't hold the reins, it will throw you off balance again and again. It will take you wherever your fears point. Have you ever noticed how easily your thoughts spiral? You wake up late, one small mistake, and within seconds the mind whispers, "You're lazy." Then you'll never succeed. Then why even try? All from a single moment. That's not logic. That's programming. The untrained mind feeds on repetition, and most people, without realizing, repeat weakness daily. They rehearse failure in their imagination until it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. They worship fear by calling it realism. They protect their doubts as if they were precious truths. But here's the secret that changes everything. You can reprogram your mind. Just as you once learned helplessness, you can now learn power. Just as you once learned fear, you can now learn faith. Because the mind is neutral. It doesn't care what you plant. It will grow whatever seed you give it. Plant doubt, reap hesitation. Plant faith, reap courage. Plant focus, reap success. And yet most people treat their minds like garbage bins. They throw in whatever the world gives them: news, gossip, fear, comparison. Then they wonder why they can't sleep, can't focus, can't find peace. Your mind is not a dumping ground. It's a garden. And discipline is the gardener. When you stop guarding your thoughts, you invite chaos in disguise. You think it's harmless, that one cynical comment, that one dark post, that one toxic friend, but every seed grows, even poison grows. So ask yourself, what have you been watering? If you feed your mind scarcity, you will never see opportunity. If you feed your mind distraction, you will never see purpose. If you feed your mind fear, you will never feel peace. The first step toward freedom is awareness. The second is discipline, because awareness shows you the weeds, but discipline is what removes them. One thought, one belief, one choice at a time. When you begin to train your mind, you'll feel resistance. Of course you will. You're interrupting years of programming. But the discomfort you feel is not punishment. It's progress. It's your mind learning that you no longer tolerate chaos. So when fear speaks, listen, but don't obey. When doubt whispers, acknowledge, but don't kneel. And when distraction knocks, smile and close the door. The day you do this, even once, you'll realize something powerful. The enemy was never outside you. It was the part of you that forgot its strength. Now that you've seen the power of an untrained mind, it's time to begin the training. The deliberate practice of mental discipline, not through force, but through daily alignment, through silence, structure, and self-command. You cannot fight chaos with willpower alone. You must train your mind the same way a warrior trains his body, the same way a musician trains her hands. Every master was once a beginner who decided to stay when the mind wanted to run. That's the first truth of discipline. It's not a gift. It's a practice. Training the mind happens on 3 layers. Each one builds upon the last. Silence, structure, self-command. 1, silence, the art of listening to yourself. The first layer of discipline is silence, not the silence of emptiness, but the silence of awareness. You can't master what you can't observe. You must first see your thoughts clearly before you can lead them. Sit with your mind the way you would sit with a frightened child, with patience, with gentleness, with no agenda, but to understand. At first it will resist. It will scream, fidget, wander. That's okay. That's how untrained minds behave. But keep sitting. Let the noise rise. Let the thoughts pass. You'll begin to notice something miraculous. Your thoughts are like clouds. They look solid, but they dissolve when you stop chasing them. Silence is not the absence of thought. It's the space where you realize you are not your thoughts. You are the one watching them. And from that awareness comes power. Start small. Every morning before the world starts shouting, give yourself 5 minutes of quiet. No phone, no noise, no agenda, just you and your mind. Breathing, observing. You don't need to control it. You just need to see it. The disciplined mind begins in silence. 2, structure. Building the framework for focus. Once you've found silence, you must give it direction. Structure is the architecture of discipline. It's the invisible skeleton that holds your purpose in place. Most people drift not because they lack dreams, but because they lack design. They want clarity without structure, success without schedule, progress without pattern. But discipline lives in repetition. If you want to command your mind, give it rituals. Your brain loves patterns. So feed it patterns that serve you. Write down your priorities each morning. Decide your focus before the world decides it for you. Guard the first hour of your day like a sacred temple. That hour builds the foundation of every other hour. Even small routines matter. Drinking water mindfully, journaling, stretching, cleaning your space. Each act whispers to your mind, I am in control. Because the external order you create becomes internal order you feel. Remember, chaos multiplies in empty spaces. Structure gives the mind something to anchor to. Without it, even the calmest soul will drift back into distraction. So build your day like an architect builds a bridge. Strong, intentional, balanced. And soon your thoughts will begin to walk that bridge naturally. 3, self-command. Becoming the master of your inner voice. The third and highest layer of training is self-command. This is where silence and structure turn into power. Self-command means this. You decide what voice in your head gets to speak the loudest. Not fear, not doubt, not comfort, but the voice of purpose. Every day, your mind will offer 2 paths, the easy one and the meaningful one. The easy one says, rest later, try tomorrow, it doesn't matter. The meaningful one says, get up. You promised yourself. Self-command is choosing the second voice, even when it hurts, because pain is not your enemy. It's the echo of transformation. When you feel resistance, it means the old you is losing control. And that's good. Let it burn. Commanding your mind doesn't mean shouting at it. It means leading it calmly, firmly, the way a great general leads an army. You give it direction and you follow through no matter how you feel. Emotions are waves. They rise and fall. But the disciplined mind is the ocean floor, steady, unmoved, always present. When you can say to yourself, I think this, but I choose differently, you've won, because freedom is not doing whatever you feel. Freedom is the ability to choose beyond your feelings. That's self-command. That's mastery. These three layers, silence, structure, self-command, are not theories. They are daily choices. Every morning you practice silence, you strengthen focus. Every hour you honor structure, you build order. Every moment you choose command over impulse, you create power. And power built this way doesn't shout, it radiates quietly, unshakably. Because once your mind learns obedience, your life begins to move with precision. Like a compass always pointing north, you stop wandering. You start walking with purpose. When everything you built starts to fall apart, the answer isn't to run, it's to rebuild with the same discipline, with the same faith. You will fall. No matter how disciplined you are, no matter how much progress you've made, there will come a day when life knocks you flat. And in that moment, everything inside you will scream, why try again? But here's the truth. Few people will tell you, falling isn't failure, it's feedback. It's life's way of testing what you've truly learned. Anyone can be strong when the wind is gentle, but discipline is proven in the storm. In the moment you feel empty, confused, uncertain, and you still choose to rise. Rebuilding doesn't start with a plan. It starts with a breath. One calm, deliberate breath that says, I'm still here. When the old life collapses, when relationships break, when dreams fade, you are not being punished. You are being invited to rebuild from truth, to stop chasing what no longer fits you and start shaping what your soul truly needs. Every ending is a beginning in disguise. The walls that crumble are often the ones that kept you small. The doors that close are sometimes protecting you from corridors that lead nowhere. And the pain that feels unbearable today is often the hammer that shapes your strength. You don't rebuild overnight. You rebuild moment by moment, with patience, with purpose, with the same quiet discipline that once felt impossible. Because rebuilding is not about speed, it's about alignment. Ask yourself, what kind of life am I rebuilding toward? What kind of person must I become to hold it? Most people try to rebuild their circumstances. The disciplined rebuild their character. They don't focus on what was lost. They focus on who they are becoming. You can lose money, status, comfort, and still rise stronger, because the one thing no storm can take from you is will. And when will is trained, it can rebuild anything. Think of every great story. Edison lost his lab to fire. He watched years of work burn to ashes. When reporters asked how he felt, he smiled and said, thank God all our mistakes were burned up. Now we can start again. That is the spirit of a trained mind, seeing destruction not as an ending, but as cleansing. Or think of Steve Jobs, fired from his own company, humiliated before the world, yet years later he said, getting fired was the best thing that ever happened to me, because it forced him to rebuild not his company, but himself. You see, life doesn't reward those who never fall. It rewards those who learn how to begin again. The disciplined mind doesn't ask, why me? It asks, what is this teaching me? It doesn't wait for perfect timing. It creates momentum from stillness. When you feel like you've lost everything, remember, you haven't lost your ability to choose. And that's all discipline ever is. The power to choose again. Choose to stand up. Choose to breathe deeply. Choose to build something beautiful out of what's left. Because every time you rise from a fall, you prove to the universe that you are no longer defined by defeat. You are defined by endurance, by persistence, by your refusal refusal to surrender. You don't need to rebuild the same life. You need to rebuild a truer one born from clarity, forged through hardship, anchored in purpose. And when you do, when you finally stand on the ruins of your old life with steady breath and an unshaken mind, you will realize something powerful. The storm didn't destroy you. It revealed you. But even when you rebuild, the world will test your faith again and again. That's when the final layer of discipline appears. The discipline of faith, the ability to believe before the evidence arrives. There comes a point in every journey where reason no longer carries you. Only faith does. When everything logical tells you to quit, when the path ahead disappears into fog, when your hard work shows no reward, that's when discipline must evolve into something greater. Faith. Faith is not blind hope. It's not waiting for miracles. Faith is discipline in the unseen. It's choosing to believe before there's proof. It's walking in the dark because you trust the steps you've already taken. The untrained mind demands evidence. The trained mind creates it. Because it knows, results always arrive after belief, never before. Look around. Every invention, every masterpiece, every revolution began as something invisible. A thought, a vision, a whisper no one else could hear. Faith is the bridge that carries those visions from the unseen to the seen. But most people quit right before the bridge appears. They confuse delay with denial. They let time steal their conviction. And so they wander endlessly, not because they lack talent, but because they stopped believing when it mattered most. The disciplined mind does not do that. It holds its ground, even when the world doubts, even when friends leave, even when fear dresses itself as logic, because faith is not a feeling, it's a decision. It's the daily practice of trust. Trust in your path, trust in your preparation, trust in the quiet voice within that says, keep going. Some days that voice will be faint. You'll barely hear it under the noise of worry, the exhaustion of trying, the ache of waiting. But if you listen closely, it's always there. Faith whispers when fear screams. Faith stands still when the world panics. Faith remembers that the seed planted in darkness is not dead. It's growing roots. When nothing seems to work, remember the bamboo tree. For 5 years, nothing appears above the soil. People walk by and laugh, thinking it's lifeless. But underground, roots are expanding, preparing to hold something tall and unshakable. And in the 5th year, it shoots up. 70, 80, 100 feet in weeks. That's not luck. That's faith meeting timing. That's what happens when discipline and patience become one. Faith is your anchor in chaos. It keeps your soul from drifting when the waves of doubt crash around you. It reminds you that storms don't last, but strength does. When you lose faith, the mind returns to fear, and fear builds cages. But when you keep faith, discipline turns into peace. Because the trained mind doesn't need to see the entire road. It just needs to see the next step and take it with conviction. Remember, faith without action is fantasy. Action without faith is exhaustion. But faith with action, that's creation. That's alignment. That's power. The great minds of history, Carnegie, Hill, Edison, Ford, they didn't see certainty. They became certainty. Their faith was so strong, it forced reality to adjust. You can do the same. Train your faith like a muscle by using it. Every time you trust your path instead of panic, it grows stronger. Every time you choose patience over doubt, it expands. Every time you act as if the result is already on its way, you teach the universe how to respond to you. Because the truth is simple but absolute. You don't attract what you want. You attract what you believe. So believe deeply. Move boldly. And when the world calls you foolish for believing in what isn't visible yet, smile, because you already know everything visible today once lived in someone's unseen faith. When you master this, discipline no longer feels heavy. It becomes devotion. And the mind that is devoted to a vision is unstoppable. But faith is not the end of discipline. It's the foundation of something greater. Because once you've rebuilt your faith, you will awaken to a new version of yourself, steady, fearless, and whole. That awakening is the beginning of transformation. And then, one morning, you wake up, and something is different. The noise inside your head has quieted. The war you used to fight every day feels distant, like a dream fading in the morning light. The chaos hasn't vanished, but you no longer belong to it. You watch it rise and fall, and you remain still. That is the beginning of awakening. It doesn't arrive with fireworks. It comes softly, in your breath, in your calm, in your knowing. It's the moment you realize you no longer need to chase peace, because peace has become your nature. The mind you once feared has become your ally. The storms that used to break you now remind you of your strength, and the silence that once felt empty now feels sacred. You have disciplined your mind. You have reclaimed your power, and now you walk differently. Not faster, but firmer. Every step deliberate, every word chosen, every breath anchored in awareness. This is what freedom feels like. Not the absence of struggle, but the mastery of self within the struggle. You understand now that life will never be without difficulty, but difficulty no longer defines you. You are no longer reacting. You are responding. You are no longer chasing. You are attracting. You are no longer surviving. You are creating. When people look at you, they might call you lucky. They might say you've changed. But what really happened is this. You woke up. You remembered who you are. And when a human being remembers their power, the world has no choice but to rearrange itself. You now walk with a calm fire, a quiet confidence that does not shout, does not boast, but radiates through every movement. This is not arrogance. This is alignment. The universe recognizes it. Opportunities find you. People feel it. You've become magnetic, not because of what you do, but because of who you've become. That is the reward of discipline. Not riches, not praise, but peace. Deep, unwavering peace. The kind that doesn't disappear when things go wrong. The kind that carries you through storms with a steady heart, and when you fall again, because you will, you won't fear it anymore. You'll smile, breathe, and remember, I've been here before. I know the way back, because the path of discipline is not straight. It spirals upward, each cycle bringing you closer to mastery, each fall refining you, each rise revealing more of who you are meant to be. You are not the same person who began this journey. The one who felt lost is gone. In their place stands someone quiet, powerful, unshakable, someone who has learned that the mind, when trained, is the most powerful force in existence. Wealth, success, peace, clarity, they are not things you chase. They are reflections of your inner state. When your mind is disciplined, the world bends in response. So from this day forward, guard your mind like a sacred temple. Feed it thoughts of purpose. Water it with patience. Strengthen it with action. And polish it with gratitude. Because the world does not change when you wish it to. It changes when you do. You have disciplined your mind. You have rebuilt your faith. You have awakened your power. Now rise, not with noise, but with quiet certainty. Walk as if the universe moves with you. Speak as if truth is flowing through you. Work as if everything you touch carries purpose, because it does. You've earned this peace. You've earned this strength, and you've earned this awakening. You are no longer lost. You are home within yourself. Train your mind, guard your peace, live with discipline, and the rest of your life will follow your command, because the moment your mind awakens, the whole world wakes up with you.